You're going to change this around, kan? Right?
Yes.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to decoloniality and regeneration. You're probably wondering what on earth is that? Well, we will spend the next 3 days talking about it and feeling into it and, embodying the new practices, hopefully. So if you look to the board, you'll see the 3 days outlined. Today we'll start with a little bit of intention setting. Why are you here? So everyone has a chance to speak to that. And then we're going to go actually into a small group discussion and then listen to a video that was recorded last night with Brooke Lavelle, whose life's work is about building relational cultures of practice. And then lunch, we're going to have an activity called mapping the threads of power. You can see this canvas on the floor. That's what that's about. We're going to have a nap. Rest is resistance is just a fancy term for a nap. And then we have Wangui Wakamonji, who will zoom in. She's in Kenya, talking about decoloniality and regeneration and an embodiment practice, which will lead us into the practice. Then we have dinner, and we're going to screen a film, a short film, 45 minutes, I think. Okay, day 2, we have Rosalie Corpus, who will be here in person. She's traveling today. Colonials and claimants, decolonizing an ancient curse. Wouldn't you want to know what that's about? And then we're going to have lunch, nap, and then we have a kind of physical activity, listening to the body. Some of you may have done Theater of the Oppressed. We're going to attempt to do that. And then we'll have a sort of unpacking the day. And actually, there's a night session, which is journaling. Day 3, we have Dr. Trixie Tangit, Decolonizing Knowledge. Actually, I think it's flipped. We're going to have Hannah first.
It's correct.
It's correct?
Trixie goes first and then
Okay, I thought you said Hannah wanted to be early. Okay, so Hannah comes after Trixie, and it's in a rhythm, movement thing again. And it is, kind of decolonizing through our bodies. And then we have an activity, regeneration and reclaiming solidarity. It's just like a broad title, but it'll be quite specific. We're going to redesign the education system because we can. And I think also do some work on our language. So let's see what happens then. Okay, in between all of this, you will sleep. You will have nice food. You will have your usual conversations. I'm really happy that my father-in-law is here, Anthony. As you know, Anthony and Anna, new residents at Kampong. And he is very interested in these kinds of things and has spent a lifetime working on decolonizing.
After colonizing first.
After colonizing first. So a range of experiences. before we go into intention setting, as you can see, there's a few things on the floor. I'm going to unpack them a little bit. You all know the infamous tikar from Ilan, made with the women in the East Coast. So she always tells me that the unpatterned ones are the ritual mats. So not going to open up the whole thing. I thought that we needed a ritual tikar today. Just hold that nicely. And then that's also from Ilan to Ken. So just imagine this is Borneo. I'm going to share with you some items which are very close to my heart, to my own personal history. This a part of my altar. And they symbolize to me coloniality as well as decoloniality in a very personal journey. So starting with this, which I saw most of my life, it was my father's. It's a ceremonial sword, and I always saw him polishing it with love, and great ceremony. And after he passed, and I have it, and I also always polish it, just in remembrance of him. I remember the first time I polished it, I just cried and cried and cried. And I felt his energy, but also his love for service. So I found out in July when I visited the Pitt Rivers Museum where Ken's daughter Thandi works, that this is an exact replica of 1830s to the 1870s, the English cavalry, is that right? Swords. So just imagine our Royal Malaysian Police, as is like a sign of great symbolic power, has something that came from the 1800s in England. This is a World War II Japanese bayonet. Tells you a little bit about my relationship with Ken. At my first birthday, he gave this to me as a gift. So this is the one that they usually put on top of the rifles. So those of you who know who might know that many of my male ancestors were beheaded, executed by the Japanese. And that has been a deep body of work for me to heal. As you can see, I've always been curious about swords. But what was this about? If this was about territorial capitalism, how you got the natives to behave well. And this was about defending and the free trade zone that the Japanese envisioned for Asia, keeping the Europeans out. Ken can speak more about this, but we won't go into the detail now, but they had their imperial reasons, to come here, to the, this Borneo land.
Very militaristic effort to clear.
Yeah. Some years ago, I met with the grandson of the Lieutenant General of the Japanese Army who surrendered on behalf of Japan in Borneo. And we started this reconciliation healing process. And I really fell in love with this man. And he became a dear, dear person in my life. And we really wanted to have a reconciliation ceremony here in Sabah between his family and, families here. And he was riddled with cancers, but just hung on for dear life. He wanted that to happen, but he just passed last month. When I first met him, he gave me this hand-woven silk. So it's also on my altar. This is a kain songket, as you can see. I would say it's symbolic of Malaysianness, maybe not, but let's just put it here in the mix. So to me, the journey of understanding coloniality in my body, in my history, in my family is deeply personal, and the work of decoloniality is also deeply personal, as it is the work that I do, and more universally. So just because I'm always dramatic and love symbols.
It's, for me personally, like whenever I think about sort of like the impact of colonization, and it's so hard to untangle just because, it's embedded in all of us, in our history, in our DNA to a certain extent. I guess for me, these 3 days, my intention is just to untangle those threads a little bit more. I'm also hoping to bother Rosalia a bit on her Jews in Borneo project, just to find out what she's found out regarding that. But yeah, that's it.
What's your name?
Was it Rosalia? Did I get that wrong?
Rosalie.
Rosalie. Oh, I'm Emily. Sorry.
My name is Jessica. This is my first time joining this, and then hearing about this program. And I didn't know, I wasn't exactly sure what my intention is until I hear a little bit from Cynthia. I think I managed to grasp a little bit of understanding of why is it important that we learn about coloniality. And I guess it is then that I feel like my intention was set. I think this is a first step, because I've been wondering, this is such an important issue and it affects a lot of people in Borneo about coloniality. Okay, I'm so sorry. This thing. Anyways. Yeah. Anyways, but it's really interesting to know that it is not mentioned or talked about as much. And I think coming here and seeing that there's actually a group of people who actually care about what happened a few hundred years ago shows that how important this is to each and every one of us. And as the title that we're going to be talking about today, decoloniality, it talks about how we wanted to change the education system to not to make Western as superiority as it is in education system. And I see this as a first step to actually spread this awareness to other people, to start talking, to start decolonialize other people around us. And I think I will try my best to learn, to take as much as I can during this 3 days opportunity, and hope that it is something that I will be able to pass on to people that I meet, to people that I talk with. So what brought me here, I honestly think it was pure luck, but it is something that I'm super grateful of for this opportunity. And yeah, I think that's all from me. Thank you.
My intention for this program, personally, I've never really given much thought about colonization, but it has come up a lot in conversations, in our work, in other mountaintops. So I think it would also help me understand, the communities, about their history and whatever, and how it also impacts me, maybe personally, how it impacted my parents, and then so I hope that the next 3 days will help me understand more about it lah. Yeah.
Osolong Kosobon. Good morning, everyone. My name's Nadira. I'm a filmmaker. Firstly, thank you, Cynthia, FSI, for inviting me to be a part of this today. A lot of my work unintentionally became just like totally wrapped up in the whole concept of decolonization. But I'm here today because I'm very interested in the whole regeneration process. I take great offense to the idea of public holidays and Merdeka Day and Malaysia Day, and when it is asserted that colonialism is a thing of the past, when it's something that's lived very much today. I think of colonialism very much as concepts. Some of the very interesting things that I have learned, I guess, in my own process as a Sabahan filmmaker in a peninsula-dominated industry, and I think a lot of us growing up in Sabah know what it means like to have our entire narrative erased and dominated by the peninsula. And as a storyteller trying to assert my identity as a Bornean in this country and persistently being shut down for it, it's not just something that has affected my own personal opportunities, but my own body as well, because of I think people who understand, colonialism and trauma also understand that it affects the body. It becomes psychosomatic. Stress causes inflammation. So I struggle a lot with psoriasis, which I developed the year that I found out with the National Cultural Policy, 1971. And when I learned about how they tried to impose Malay language and culture, and how they had forced up to about 95,000 Sabahans to convert into Islam at a time when Sabahans couldn't even really read. Many people who are, up until basically the 2000s, everybody in Sabah who wanted a tertiary education had to go to the peninsula or abroad. And I wonder a lot about how the way my ancestors communicated as indigenous peoples, and what my role is as a filmmaker to translate, those lost sort of indigenous histories and oral histories into cinema. So I was very moved by what Cynthia and Anthony had to share as well, because I know that you've given it a lot of thought and put a lot of effort into reversing it on not just your own terms, but within your own communities as well, which I find just really remarkable, truly remarkable. But my intention also is to be able to listen to people who don't know so much about it, so that I can get some fresh perspectives on it, because sometimes it's too heavy on my mind, that it's really nice to hear from people who don't feel affected by it, because I want to know what that's like, and I want to know what regeneration and repair can sound like, or feel like. Because recently I just finished shooting my first feature film, and it was a 21-day shoot, and I was leading about 30 people in and out of the kampongs. We shot in Tenghilan as well, at Uncle Bilu's place, and we got to go full Sabah in terms of the jokes, in terms of the languages, and it was so amazing. But it was so weird that coming out of it, I felt this immense anxiety, because one thing that colonialism has taught me, or experiencing colonialism, and not to do with empires, maybe to do with empires, but was that colonialism, more importantly, creates imposter syndrome in people. Colonialism is about projection. Colonialism is like, I'm right, you're wrong, I'm civilized, you're not. And that resonates with me so much, in the ways that they've said, what's so good about being Sabahan? Stop speaking in a Sabahan accent. That's why, it's so hard for us to find, that representation for Sabahan voices in Malaysian media. And that's not just something that people can say straight away. It's something that kind of stays with you for much longer than that. So it was just kind of really, this entire mountaintop, the subject of it has been very, like, you guys heard me. I was like, how did they hear me? How did they know? It's just like, let's call Nadira, like, at a time that I needed to process this the most. Because I think the more frightening thing about colonialism is not just when things are taken away from you, but even, your own personal ability to hold on to your happiness can also be removed from you. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to being able to regenerate my own notions on colonialism and how to live more in the present. Thanks.
Morning, everyone. My name is Stasha. My intention here, I think, is, I guess I've been thinking about it as well. So I've learned a bit about colonialization. So I think to unpack a bit more on that process, and then maybe it will sort of unearth something a bit about my ancestry as well. Because like I don't really know much about my Dutch side. It's more about like my Kadazan Dusun side. So maybe with this program, it will help me uncover a bit more about ancestor history a bit. Thanks.
Hi, my name is Faz. So my first intention coming here, just to meet everyone again, since this is my second time coming here. Remembering the first time I came here, meet the new faces, the connection. So after hear all the sharing from Cynthia and Nadira and everyone, I think I've set my mind to totally focus in these 3 days to understand well what is decoloniality and regeneration. Yeah, that's all. Thank you.
Morning, my name is Juliet. Actually, I've heard some talking about this before, but I didn't get really understand about this, and I'm sure I'm here today and tomorrow because I'm really interested to know more about it and wondering how it will impact me. So yeah, that's all. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Kenneth, as you say, the other Ken. For me, decoloniality or even colonialism, it's tough to say.
It's okay, clearly you're not the only one.
Yeah, it's, colonialism, right? It's funny, like I have really I'm not sure how to feel directly about it. Because it's something, if I say growing up, like say education-wise, you barely just touch on the surface of the subject, right? And it's one of the things, me growing up is always they saying, because of it, that's why you can speak English. That's it, right? And then I was like, all right, sure. That's ingrained into the system already. And I mean, honestly, the last 2 years, I've learned so much about colonialism and how to decolonize it than I ever did in 17 years of high school, studying, growing up there. But I think for me, if I go for like more of a funny story, when I first traveled to my first Western country, right, I went to Australia to study. And obviously everything is new. I was like, whoa, right? It's like, white man's land, which I didn't even know anything about it, right? So I landed. I just looked in the window, but the one thing that stuck with me, like in a sense, it's kind of a culture shock, was I just saw a truck, right? It's basically a big construction truck. I didn't think much about it. I just looked at it. And then I saw the driver and he was white. And that for me blew my mind. Because I've never seen that here, right? In just like a really labor job, right? And then because I was like, whoa, but they don't really do that here, right? Because a bit atas. Wow. And
wow.
Then after that really is the one thing that I always remember. That's the first time I landed. And then I realized that through here, there is still quite that big of a difference of how people view, let's say, races or ethnicities in a sense. And I see a lot from my family, like my parents will always say Chinese number one, and they knew about the history and everything, and when they still say no, we have to be the more ethnocentric one and go for it, and then everyone is a bit less. And then we want to say, is that also a form of colonial trauma that happened, right? So it's a lot that I'm still trying to understand. Is little nuances here that I picked up here and there that's I find quite interesting. It's something that I want to unpack more and really learn more. Within myself and also like the community. So it's very interesting topic. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm also Kenneth. My whole life has been in the web of coloniality and decoloniality. After 60 years, I'm still learning about that. I'm really excited to hear a new generation of speakers, particularly this idea of linking coloniality to regeneration. I think that's going to be interesting and new for me. Really interested to hear what happens with a younger generation of people here in Sabah as they think about what this whole experience actually means to them and to you in your lives. One goal is that you can all say the word by the end of this. It's not easy, actually. I had to practice. I think it's going to be really, really fun, and there'll be some tears. Yeah. Yeah, it'll be fun with tears. Yeah. Okay.
I wanted to add that the reason my maternal ancestors were executed by the Japanese was because of their association with that other sword. So let's change gears a little bit. The first generation of this program was called Decolonizing Psyche and Knowledge. And I think many of us found it hardcore, heavy, intense, and a little bit like, okay, what are we going to do with this now? Bleeding, hemorrhaging. And so for this year, and also as a result of my own engagement with a new cohort of facilitators working on regeneration, we've shifted, I think, evolved from decolonizing. To me, that's kind of a little bit like climbing up a mountain we don't really know, with a lot of heavy things and baggage, to decoloniality, which to me somehow feels lighter and maybe more about strategy and solidarity. And then regeneration. How do we move out of this to something new, to a new story that we create? So I'm excited that we have these 5 women who are going to share with us from their bodies of work. And of course, deeply embedded in the histories as well. Yeah, there's a reason that they're doing the work. So let's start with, how many of us are there? 20? 21? Okay, so 7 groups of 3. You can literally, I think we can just group into 3. We don't have to go around too much. And just talk about decoloniality, like what does it mean to you, if anything at all? And your edge of exploring it or trying to understand it. It doesn't have to be like the definition of, it's like, what is my understanding of it?
I have a question, which is, what's the difference between coloniality and colonization?
Yeah, so I think it's very subtle and also profound. And I think this 3 days is not so much about defining it, but about unpacking it and understanding one and the other, and ourselves, learning what it means to us.
Oh, okay. Wait, sorry, grammatically. I think the coloniality is about the state, whereas colonization would be like the verb, the action of the state. Oh.
It's more than that.
It's also more than that.
Okay.
Even as we talk about our own experience later, we should at least introduce the concept.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Well, is now the time?
So the small groups, people can.
Okay. Well, you want to give it a shot? I think just the.
So sort of colonization and decolonization focused very much on what the colonizer was doing, and focused very much on a kind of linear model. Sabah is not colonized. Then when a piece of paper is paid for in London from between an Austrian and a Brit, suddenly it's colonized. And it's legal and formal and whatever, and then Sabah is decolonized when it's handed over under another piece of paper to Malaysia. And it was a powerful concept. It related to physical manifestations of power, and it related to the actions of the powerful and the laws of the powerful and the militaries of the powerful. But it didn't explain all of the swirl and system that was going on. It didn't explain what the so-called colonized were doing, apart from they were only defined by the impact of the colonizer. So coloniality was an effort to understand all of the web, the systems, the interactions that were happening. The constructs before, during, and after. Colonialism didn't end in 1963 or any other date. It changed legally and politically and militarily at various points, but the underlying forces and relationships and the feelings people had about themselves and their bodies were not following that. They were embedded in a web of experience. And so coloniality and decoloniality are about processing that system, that web of experience, rather than just looking at the formal political economy type of things.
Well said, Ken. Perfect. Okay, so in your small group, so let's give it 10 minutes. It's not supposed to be an in-depth discussion. It's just bubbles. It's not you're not trying to define it. It's more your own bubbles, your own exploration. Yeah. And just usually hearing yourself speak and hearing others speak helps that. Okay, so groups of 3. And let's take 10 minutes.
Not necessarily.